The number is $612. You know it without looking. You knew it before you were fully awake. You knew it while the coffee was still dripping. You knew it the way you know the layout of your own room in the dark. Without effort. Without turning on a light. Without deciding to know it. The number sits in the back of your mind the way a slow leak sits under a sink. You cannot see it most of the time, but you always know it is there. And you always know it is getting worse in some quiet way you are not watching closely enough. $612. The electricity bill and the phone bill both land in 7 days. Together, they are $265. You do the subtraction before you tell yourself to. It just runs. The way your pulse runs. The way your breathing runs when you are not thinking about it. Automatic. Uninvited. The permanent background process of a person who has no financial slack and has lived without it long enough to stop noticing that other people have it. You have been running this calculation for 3 years. You will run it tomorrow. You will run it the day after that. The job pays $33,000 a year. You did not pursue it. It came to you at a moment when you could not afford to be selective, and you were not selective, and you told yourself that was temporary. You told yourself you would give it a year, and then move to something that fit, something that pointed somewhere. That conversation with yourself happened 25 months ago. After taxes, the paycheck is $2,120 a month. After rent, it is $1,225. After the bus pass, and the 2 shifts a month you pay for a ride share, because the bus does not run when your shift ends, it is $1,090. After groceries, it is $760. After the utilities, the phone, the internet, the minimum on the one credit card you swore you would never carry a balance on, it is $305. $305. You did the math on the back of a receipt the first month. A grocery receipt, long, curling at the edges. You kept it. You do not fully know why. It lives in the drawer with the takeout menus and the spare keys and the things that have no other place. Maybe you kept it because writing the number down made it real in a way that thinking it did not. Maybe because some part of you understood that $305 was not just what was left over. It was the outline of your entire life. The precise perimeter of what was possible for you once everything with a name and a due date had taken its portion. $305 for the unexpected. $305 for the emergency. $305 for anything that resembled a life outside of surviving the month. Life does not fit in $305. It never did. It never will. The first reset comes in month 5. The tooth. A molar that had been aching in a way you had been managing with over-the-counter medication, and a specific way of chewing that avoided one side of your mouth. Then one night it stopped being manageable. The dentist uses words you do not understand and hands you an estimate for $520. You sit in the chair looking at the paper doing the calculation you always do. You have $680 saved. After the tooth, you have $160. You start again. The second reset comes 6 weeks later. Your phone, the one you need for the app that shows your work schedule, stops charging. The port is dead. A repair is more than a used replacement, and the used replacement is $190. You buy it standing in the store doing the math on the machine you are about to replace. You start again. The third reset comes the month you finally get ahead. You have been careful for 10 weeks. You have eaten the same rotation of rice, eggs, frozen vegetables, and the cheap pasta in the yellow bag until your body stopped registering it as a hardship and started registering it as simply what eating is. You have $740 saved. It has weight. You can feel it as something other than a countdown. Then your hours get cut at the end of the quarter. Not eliminated. Trimmed. Enough that the paycheck comes back $200 lighter for 2 months. The $740 does not disappear in an event. It erodes. It quietly becomes the thing that keeps rent whole while the smaller checks come in. It is reclassified from progress into survival without a single dramatic moment. You start again. This is the pattern, not laziness, not stupidity, not a failure of effort or a defect of character. The pattern is structural. It is what happens when income and expenses sit in the same space with nothing between them. When any disruption, a tooth, a phone, a trimmed schedule, collapses a margin that was never wide enough to absorb it. When every month begins at the same number no matter how carefully you managed the month before. You are not falling behind. You are not moving ahead. You are running at exactly the speed required to stay in one place. The effort is total, and the position is fixed. The treadmill does not respond to how hard you run. The treadmill sets the pace. And the pace is designed so that everything you have goes into standing still. You are 24. The raise comes, $5,800 a year. After taxes, $320 more a month. You feel it. The first paycheck lands heavier, and you notice it. An actual physical sense of relief, of a little more room in the walls of the month. You feel it for exactly 21 days. Then the car, the one you finally saved for, used, necessary, needs new brakes. Then the dentist calls about the second half of the work you deferred. Then your rent renewal arrives with a $75 increase, and a polite paragraph explaining it. The $320 does not vanish in one moment. It dissolves in pieces. Each piece explainable. each piece reasonable on its own. The sum of the pieces is the entire raise, and a little more. You earned more. Your position did not move. This is where the question first appears, not as a thought you could say out loud, as a shape at the edge of your attention, a suspicion you cannot yet name. The suspicion is that the problem might not be how much is coming in, that the problem might be somewhere underneath the income, in something the income by itself cannot reach. You do not have the words for it, but the question is there now. And once a question like that arrives, it does not leave. It waits. You start reading. Not the bright covered books that promise the problem is your attitude. You have adjusted your attitude for 3 years, and the number in the drawer is still $305. You read about money as a mechanism, about the difference between what you earn and what you own, about why the savings account that pays you 0.02% exists inside a bank that takes those same deposits and turns them into returns many multiples larger and keeps the difference. About index funds, about expense ratios, about what compounding actually looks like when you extend the line out 20 and 30 years instead of one. And the thing that reorganizes something in you is simple. Almost insultingly simple. A wage requires your body and a place at a time. Stop showing up and the money stops the same week. An asset does not require your body anywhere. You acquire it once, and it produces whether you are present or asleep or somewhere else entirely. The whole engine of building wealth is the conversion of the hours you sell into things that produce without asking for your hours in return. That is the entire structure. In 3 sentences. That no one ever said to you. Not in school, not at home, not once, anywhere, in 24 years. You read this sitting on the floor of your apartment at 12:10 on a Wednesday night, because the only chair you own is one you found on the curb and it leans, and the floor is more honest than the chair. You open an investment account with $350. The app asks its questions. Risk tolerance, time horizon, goals. You answer them as truthfully as you can, and it suggests an allocation, and you approve it, and you transfer the $350, and you close the app. You do not look for 4 days. On the 5th day you look, and the account says $339, and you feel the pull instantly. The old calculation running on its own, $339 is $11 less than $350. The $11 feels like a verdict, proof that this was foolish, that the money belonged where it had always belonged, in the account where at least the number did not go down. You do not move it. You set an automatic transfer of $80 a month. You close the app. You decide you will not open it for 30 days. The 30 days pass. The account reads $431. You close it again. The months pass the way they pass when you are doing something that shows you no evidence it is working. Slowly, without sensation. With a steady, reasonable temptation to stop and send the $80 towards something you can actually touch. You do not stop. Not from confidence. You have no confidence. The account at $1,000 feels like nothing. Account at $2,600 feels like nothing. It is a number on a glass screen with no weight in your hands and no effect on the shape of a single one of your days. You continue because the mechanism does not require you to feel it. It only requires you to not stop. That is the whole demand. Do not stop. You are 26. You leave the job. Quietly. You applied for months in the margins of your days and eventually someone offered $43,000 and you accepted it flatly, without ceremony, and gave 2 weeks. The new salary, after taxes, is $2,640 a month. The difference from before is $520 a month. You change nothing. Not the apartment, not the leaning curb chair, not the phone you bought used. You route $460 of the $520 straight into the account before the paycheck reaches your checking balance, before you can see it. Before your life can locate it and grow to consume it the way your life consumed every raise that came before. This is the mechanism that works. Not discipline. Discipline runs out. Not willpower. Willpower is a fuel that burns down by afternoon. Automation. The decision removed before it can be made. The money gone before the part of your brain that spends money ever knows it arrived. You read this and thought it was too simple to be true. It is not too simple. It is the answer. It is the only reliable answer to a mind that is built to spend whatever it can reach. The account crosses $10,000 on a Thursday. You are standing in line at the pharmacy. You check it out of routine, without any weight of expectation. The number is $10,120. You look at it for a second, then the line moves and you step forward. Then you pay for what you came for. Then you walk out into an ordinary afternoon. This is what $10,000 actually looks like. A pharmacy line. A number on a screen between one step and the next. Nothing anyone standing near you would ever have seen. But that night, on the floor again because the chair still leans, something is different. In a way you cannot fully describe. Not excitement. Something steadier and quieter than excitement. A small change in how the future sits in your chest. Like standing in a room you have only known in the dark, and someone has turned on a light low enough to make out the shapes. Not bright. Just enough to see that there are shapes, and that they have edges, and that the edges are real. You are 28. The account is at $27,000. Your salary is $50,000. You have told no one the number. Not your closest friend. Not your family. Not the person you have been seeing for half a year who has remarked, more than once, that you are careful with money, in a tone that is not exactly warm. You have learned something the books mentioned but did not fully prepare you for. Money at this level, not wealth, not the beginning of wealth, just the slow gathering of more than nothing, alters the texture of the people around you in ways no one will name out loud. The friends still resetting every month feel something when you are near it, that neither of you will point to directly. The family members carrying their own version of $305 feel something else. None of it is cruelty. All of it is human. So you keep the number private. Not hidden. Private. The difference matters. Hidden implies you are ashamed of it. Private implies you have decided to protect it. You are not ashamed. You are deliberate. The number is not a secret you are keeping. It is a boundary you are holding. You keep building. You are 31. A slow Sunday. The apartment is quiet. The leaning chair got fixed 4 months ago. Not replaced. Fixed. A screw you finally tightened, and a shim of folded cardboard. 10 minutes. And it sits level now for the first time since you found it. The laptop is open on a milk crate you use as a table. A spreadsheet you built yourself across several Sunday mornings. Columns for balance. Monthly contribution. Assumed return. Years. You run the numbers out to 10 years forward. The figure at the end is not a headline. Is not the number that sounds like a different life when someone says it aloud. It is a number that exists in the same world you are sitting in. A number you can picture reaching from this crate, in this room, on this salary, with this system, given only time. That is the new thing. Not the figure. The fact that you can look 10 years ahead and see a destination instead of a fantasy that belongs to some other category of person. At 22, you could not look 10 years forward at all. Not because you lacked imagination. Because the ground moved under you constantly. And you cannot see far ahead when you are spending all of your attention staying upright. You are 33. The account crosses $100,000 on a Tuesday. You are heating water for tea. The phone is on the counter. You check it the way you check it every morning now. Not with hope, just with the plain attention of someone who monitors a system they are responsible for. The number reads $100,210. You set the phone down. The water finishes. You make the tea. You drink it standing at the counter, looking out at a street doing nothing in particular. There is no feeling you were promised. No arrival. No resolution. What there is instead is clarity, and clarity is more useful than any of the feelings you were told to expect. A precise, quiet understanding of what this number is, and what it is not. $100,000 at a modest return is a few $1,000s a year. That is not freedom. That is not a salary. That is not the end of anything. What it is the first time the machine has enough mass to behave like a machine. The first time the compounding has enough underneath it to compound against in a way you can measure. The first time the thing you have been building for 11 years has real weight. Weight that will go on. Gathering more weight without asking you to feel it, or manage it, or decide about it every month. You want more weight behind it. But the wanting is different now. It is not the wanting of the person who calculated $305 against a broken tooth. It is not the wanting of scarcity. It is mechanical, patient. The orientation of someone who now understands the system well enough to know that the next $100,000 will take less time than the first, and the one after that less still. Not because the income will necessarily rise, because the machine compounds, because mass makes mass, because past a certain weight, the system begins to do the work your labor used to do alone. Below $100,000, every decision was a response. The tooth broke, you responded. The rent rose, you responded. The hours were cut, you responded. You were permanently reactive, permanently one event away from the reset. Above it, the decisions change in kind. They stop being forced and start being chosen. You are no longer responding to a financial life that keeps happening to you. You are designing one you are moving toward. That is not a personality change. It is not a mindset. It is what stability makes mechanically possible. The people who tell you wealth is a mindset are describing the result and calling it the cause. The stability comes first. The mindset follows. Always in that order, never the reverse. Somewhere right now it is late, and someone is sitting under a single light at a kitchen table. The banking app open, the number unchanged in months. They are running the calculation they have run for years. They are certain the number will finally move when the income moves, when the raise lands, when the second job starts, when something external shifts the input so the output has to follow. They are not wrong that income matters. Income matters. But income poured into an unchanged structure runs into the same channels it always ran into. The life expands to meet it. The fixed costs rise to meet it. The margin stays exactly what it was, because the margin was never a function of income. The margin is a function of the structure the income moves through. And the structure stays invisible, because no one shows it to you. Not the school that taught you to earn and never to own. Not the parents who were too busy managing their own receipt in a drawer to explain a system they were never shown either. Not the bank that profits precisely from the gap between what it pays you and what it earns with your money. The invisibility is not an accident. It is the design. The distance between that kitchen table and a counter on a Tuesday morning where a number crosses $100,000 is not income. It is not luck. It is not a better starting point. It is the decision to open the account when $350 felt embarrassing. The decision to leave the $339 alone when it looked like a mistake. The decision to automate the money before your own mind could reach it. The decision to fix the leaning chair instead of replacing it. The decision to keep the apartment when the salary grew. The decision to say nothing about the number while you built it. The decision to keep going when $2,600 felt like nothing, because the math never asked you to feel it. The math only asked you to not stop. 11 years of decisions that looked like nothing at all from the outside. That is what $100,000 is. Not an amount, not a finish line, not the thing that changes your life. The evidence of 11 years of structure that no one ever saw you build. And the base weight of a machine that is only now beginning to run at the speed it was built for. You finish the tea, you rinse the cup, the machine keeps running without you.